As 2024 winds down and we look ahead to 2025, what does the job landscape look like for tech workers? Are there sunny days ahead, or are we heading into a dark tunnel of doom and gloom? We're going to talk about this next up on Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Joining me in studio today is Lucas Marion. He is the senior reporter at Computer World who covers the IT jobs landscape. Welcome, Lucas.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're in the studio. Usually we talk to you via Zoom, so we're extremely happy that you came here to the studio.
I braved the highway.
So, all right. So, the reason I wanted to talk about this is you always come on the show, usually either at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year, and we kind of reset the table for what the jobs landscape is, mainly for IT jobs and tech-related jobs. Mm-hmm. But I think we could also delve into the larger job market as well. And you wrote a story for Computer World recently that was all about basically unemployment is at near historic lows. So why is it so hard to get an IT job? Mm-hmm. And you have a lot of stats that kind of say, hey, it's a mixed bag out there. So as you look back at 2024, because I think when the last time we spoke, things were still pretty good for the IT jobs market. But as you look back on 2024, what kind of year was it? And, is this going to change as we head into 2025, or are we in this wavy period?
So
let's unpack there. Sorry.
Yeah, let's unpack that. I think probably two or three trends. So last year, a lot worse than 2024. You had probably twice the number of layoffs, close to 300,000. This year, we're at about 140, 150,000. So still significant, but about half of what it was last year.
Yeah.
It's cooling. So the layoffs are cooling down, although they've continued. They are slowing. And I think you had a lot of overhiring. We've written about this over and over again, especially during the pandemic when companies were freaking out a little about not having enough help. So they overhired, snapped up everyone, and then they just hired too many. So they started laying off. Now you have a combination of things. So still a little bit of the cooling on that overhiring, but there are new skills that they're looking for as well. Kind of the interesting thing is that all these companies, all these big ships that are laying people off, they're leaving all these qualified workers in their wake. So small and mid-sized companies are snapping them up left and right. So the unemployment rate remains low. In fact, Janko Associates, which is usually the stodgiest of all the unemployment figures that I get out there, they're usually like, it's 6%. That actually dropped from 6% to below 4%. In September.
Right.
So they're even saying that the unemployment rate for IT is really low. At the same time, companies are being more judicious about who they hire because they're finding out they need new skills. And a lot of those skills are, we're going to say it, related to AI.
Yeah.
But not AI specifically. It's more about, can you use AI with your existing skill set? Can you, do you understand AI and how it can help our company? Can you automate a lot of the repetitive tasks with AI? You don't have to become an expert.
Yeah. I want to ask about like the big tech jobs and them using the reasoning. I could call it an excuse, but I'll say the reason for, all of this overhiring that happened during the pandemic, and that was 2020, 2021. Yep. You could say, I don't know if you would argue that 2022 was a year that they were still hiring at that point.
They were.
Okay. So we're now in 2024. We're about to enter 2025. Can you use that excuse anymore with these layoffs, or is the reason for a lot of these layoffs now different than maybe just we overhired, and now it's more about, this is the new normal? Is that we're just gonna do layoffs every year or so, in order to stabilize the business or maximize profit or whatever else companies do. Like they have to stop using this pandemic as an excuse, right?
Yeah, to somewhat, but they want to make themselves look good. They don't want to make their existing employee base seem like the company's not doing well, and this is why we're laying people off. And it's not really that as much as it is. I don't think it's still the bulk of overhiring, although there were a lot of companies that held on because they weren't sure how it was going to go. So they held on to a lot of those employees that they did overhire. But there's, like I said, new skill sets coming in. A lot of the lower skill jobs are being automated. I hate to say, can I say help desk? Lower level help desk jobs.
Okay. Or entry level. You could call them entry level.
Yeah. A lot of the entry level jobs are being automated. So you're seeing a lot of layoffs due to that. But there's also a skill set change. And I'm just going to be blunt on this. The hard IT skills less valuable than the soft skills.
Okay.
So be malleable in your abilities, be willing to change, have critical thinking, get along with other employees. Things like that are what companies are looking for now, because technology changes. You're never faster now than it did in the past, obviously. And that's what companies want. They want employees who continue to learn and whose skill sets can continue to grow or change. You're always going to have the need for software engineers. You're always going to have, although a lot of that's also being automated by AI, you're always going to have the need for data analysts. In fact, right now, the funny thing is that people started hiring for AI and then they went, wait a second, our data is not ready for this yet.
Right.
So the AI, obviously AI is a mimic. It spits out what you give it. Basically, it's trained on what you have. And so if your data is not clean, if your data is not organized, it's going to spit out garbage. And so that's what they found. A lot of these companies, not all, but I would say probably a majority of companies found out that AI is not as great as it is, it was supposed to be, if your data is not clean and organized. And so now they're hiring data analysts, they're hiring business analysts, they're hiring people who can organize and clean the data so that AI can then work on.
Right. And so you also mentioned, there's this upskilling need out there, and so the skills are changing, and you've got the hard skills, soft skills. So do you think that job hunters, that people that are looking for a job, should not really focus on their job hunt at this point and really work on getting those skills? Or is there a way to do both, where you can improve your skill set but also still look for a job, or hope that maybe the company that hires you will give you those skills that you need? Or is there a way that, again 5 questions here, you might have those skills but you just don't know how to tell that to a recruiter or put that on a resume or things like that?
A lot of the skills that, like I just talked about with AI and soft skills, people don't put on the resume because they don't think they're important.
Yeah.
They're highly important. I'm telling you right now, 50% of companies aren't even requiring a college degree anymore, computer science degree. Federal government, same thing, slash that right out of their job postings.
Yeah.
And so what you need to do is you need to revamp your resume. You can learn at the same time. And a lot of these companies are very savvy. They're going, why don't we train the employees? We know what we need. If this employee can learn, then we'll go ahead and pay for that employee to learn. So it's more about making your resume more attractive. Yes, you should be learning. You should always be learning, because especially probably in technology more than any other industry, your skills are going to constantly need honing.
Yeah.
But so it's important that you continue to learn. But that doesn't mean you can't find a job now. Like I said, the unemployment rate for IT specifically, it's well below the general unemployment rate of 4+%. It's anywhere from about 2.5 to 3.8% from different companies are saying this. So it's still near historic lows, like I said in the article. But the difference is that different companies are hiring now. Smaller companies are hiring. Startups are hiring. AI is changing the landscape out there about what companies can make it big, because you no longer have to have a huge staff to do a lot of this stuff. So I think it's important that you consider your soft skills. Put those up high. Just learn the basics of AI.
All right, give me some of the soft skills that people should be putting on their resumes.
Okay.
Because I've got some examples here in my own life. Good, I'm glad you did, because I wanted, if I was going to apply for a job, I think one of the soft skills I have is that I work well on teams, or I get along with people. I don't like crowds, but I do like people.
Well, is that why you pushed me away? I mean, I came here and sat down. You said, move over. I'm what?
You were invading my personal space a little bit.
Okay. I'm very comfortable.
So what should I? So if I was going to be looking for a job, just saying like, I work great on a team. No, that's
critical thinking.
Yeah. Okay. How do I prove that? That I'm good at that.
Well, you question. You ask questions.
Yeah.
You try to find out the best method of doing things. You take criticism well. These are things you can actually.
I'm not sure if I do that, but
you got to be open to it. Okay. You break down information into smaller parts. You're able to evaluate for evidence in a situation. You spend time journeying or mediating or meditating to consider how to make decisions and influence. So about the thought process, problem solving skills. That's huge. They want people who can solve problems. Obviously, these companies are facing problems. Half the battle is solving the problems they're facing, embracing challenges. I embrace challenges. I love challenges. Give me a challenge. They like to see that on a resume. Learn some of the problem-solving frameworks. I'm reading off my list here, but root cause analysis, structuring your approach to solving a problem, and practice in simulated environments. That's something you can build your skills through doing. And seek feedback, like I said before. Look for feedback. How did that go? Can you give me any tips on improving how I can do that? Communication. Enhance your listening skills.
What?
Don't wait to speak. That sort of thing. We've heard that before.
But also don't interrupt, right? I mean,
don't interrupt me. Hold on. Okay. So improve verbal and nonverbal skills. Practice speaking clearly and confidently.
Yeah.
I had to do that.
So, all right, so there's a lot. So again, and I know this might be a stereotype, but there is this feeling that a lot of the people that are in IT are both, they're introverted. They're very logical. You have engineers and programmers that follow a set logic and structure, and they can do things that I could certainly not do. Again, that's why I'm a podcast host and a journalist rather than, coding or doing a lot of the IT work. So how do you get someone that is like that from a personality standpoint, and then all of a sudden you say, hey, look, Lucas, you've been doing a great job, but you're never going to get hired until you actually start being friendlier to people.
Well,
that must hit them differently, that's why some people are struggling.
I'm going to call out my son-in-law without naming him.
Okay,
he's a techie. In fact, he's a business analyst, and he's extremely good at his job. He crunches numbers like you wouldn't believe. I couldn't even come close to what he does. So he's a bit of a nerd, but he has also learned people skills, and that's helped him grow. He's actually been promoted because he's well liked in the company, because people get along with him. He's a listener. He loves to solve. He does. He's like the king of problem solving. He sees problems. He came into the company, and they have a fleet of trucks. And he decided we need to track those trucks, and we need to find out if they're actually following their routes, and a lot of them weren't. And he saved the company a lot of money doing that.
Right.
So he said, so on his resume, that's some of the things he put. I'm good communication. My communication skills are excellent. I love to problem solve. Give me your problems. Change management. He's willing to change with whatever needs to happen and help with that change as well.
Yeah.
These are all skills you can develop. Even if you're a bit of an introvert, he still goes with his gaming groups. I don't know what they do, but he still does that geeky stuff. But he also is a very good he's good at being personable with other people.
All right. So let's say that there are some people out there that agree with your assessment that, these softer skills are something that companies are looking for, valuing more than perhaps just the certifications, the degrees, the certifications, all that stuff that.
Well, certifications are good. I'm not saying that's not
right. No, we're not saying that you just stop going after those, but that's not the number one priority now, is it? Or it's lower on the list?
It's lower on the list.
Yeah.
You need to put those things up high, your soft skills up higher, and you can say things like, I have a good, firm grasp of artificial intelligence, what it is. You know what? Go to ChatGPT and ask it what artificial intelligence is.
I know what it stands for.
It'll tell you what it is.
All right. So let's say everyone's on board with this and they've updated the resumes. There's still a lot of other difficulties and obstacles that are popping up. The first gatekeeper for any job company now is probably getting past an AI that is scanning a resume, that's scanning a cover letter.
It's true.
I know that, the last time I was looking for a job, you'd have to go through and rewrite your cover letter, rewrite your resume every time to match the job description. And even then you were still not guaranteed that a human being was going to see it if you were lucky. So there's that.
Yeah.
There's also companies, I've read some stories about companies that are putting up job listings on these job boards that they have no intention of filling.
Yep.
I think they're called ghost job listings and things like that. I think that's a horrible trend.
Yeah.
Because it's just really unfair to the people that are, spending the time to try to find a job and then to apply for a job and do all of this work and then find out that, well, it isn't really a real job. or we have to do it because of the regulations. We know we're going to give it to the vice president's cousin for whatever reason. Okay, so there's that.
Yeah.
Third, there's another thing. We've heard a lot about ageism with a lot of the Gen X and I don't even know if there are some boomers probably that are still in the job market. And there's if you're over the age of, I want to say 40 or 45 now, it gets a little trickier to get a job if you're mid-career or you're shifting jobs or whatever. But also Gen Z is now struggling. I don't know if you've seen those stories where a lot of people have hired entry level or new employees, and the Gen Z attitude. And again, this is one of those generational warfare type stories, so take it with a grain of salt. But a lot of them are being let go because they're not following the rules or the normal work things that have come up so far. And plus, we've now disrupted the entire world because of the pandemic. So a lot of these people were probably hired when there was remote work and then hybrid work. And so your new employee might not have assimilated themselves into this work culture thing.
Yeah.
So you've got all of these different hurdles. So tackle as many as those that you want. Do you agree with these? A lot of this should change, or you just have to deal with this stuff?
I think anybody who's older and is honest with themselves can look back through the decades and realize that there's always been an attitude of these kids. They just don't know they don't have a work ethic, Oh
yeah, I faced that when I was starting out. Everyone called us, Gen Xers, the slackers. We were the ones that, you don't want to work. No one wants to work.
Are you kidding me? My parents, my father was in World War II. He's from that generation.
Yeah.
You kids don't know. It's not true. Everybody wants to succeed.
Yeah.
They want to feel fulfilled. And one way of doing that is having a job that is fulfilling. And so it's more about finding your place in what seems to be shifting sands in the marketplace right now. But it's not shifting so much that you can't find your niche. You can. You just have to look a little harder. You have to understand what companies are looking for. And I agree with you. It's a terrible trend posting ghost job postings. The companies are doing that for all the wrong reasons. They're doing it to look like we're hiring.
Right.
They're doing it to make current employees believe that, you better do your job well because we are hiring. Or they're saying, hey, we're looking to get people, but we just can't find anybody right now. We want to help you to do your job because, again, I've talked to people who are just overwhelmed by the amount of work there is to do out there.
Yeah.
And they're like, when is my company going to hire more people? So we're trying. So those are all reasons that the company's doing this.
Right.
The company's doing this. They're eventually it's going to bite them because how does a reputation impact you, a company's reputation with going to work for them? If a company has a bad reputation and you hear about, they have a bunch of ghost positions, they're not even hiring really, that's going to look bad on them in the end. It's not going to be a good trend.
I mean, that brings it back to another question I had around these tech companies that are doing all of these layoffs. Again, last year, 2024, the beginning of 2023, there was a horrible year. You said there was a lot of layoffs. So you had companies, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. They're all doing layoffs. And so we thought, again, overhiring. Okay, well, we'll take that answer. But then they continued to do it. I think Facebook did some more. There's a cycle almost of all of these tech companies. So,
but it's a testimony to the strength of the job market that the unemployment rate still remain low.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But I'm wondering, does it used to be that if you were a tech worker, you would want to work for these big tech companies because that was the cool thing to do. You knew that it was a growing company. Everyone would want to go to work for Google because of the campus or the free drinks or whatever. I mean, that was probably just one of the perks there. But, there was that cachet that people would have if you worked for those big companies. It feels like to me that that's now gone. Or do you still think that there's a subset of people out there that still want to reach that? They still want to work in Silicon Valley, whether it's for a startup or, or a big company like Amazon or Google or Microsoft, Dell. I mean, you can name the company. Or is that all gone away? And maybe people should look at smaller companies that aren't as famous, but that have great perks.
Shift.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talk about tech companies that are hiring IT workers. And then we talk about companies in other markets that are high. So remember,
and I laugh because I know you're going to bring up the quote, like every company is a tech company now.
It is now, and that's the truth, because every company is now more using technology more than ever before. So what you're having is you're having a bunch of openings. So these big tech companies, the Googles and the Alphabets, that's Alphabets, I think.
Right.
The big tech company, Amazon, they're laying off people, but then all these other companies that couldn't get these skilled workers are like scooping them up.
Right.
They're saying this is a good thing. So it's small, medium-sized, and non-traditional companies that would scoop up the tech workers. So that's why I believe that is why the unemployment rate for IT workers has remained low, even with hundreds of thousands of layoffs happening in the technology realm.
Well, now what about ageism on the Gen X side of things, or
You know what?
even late millennials are probably about to face a lot of these questions.
Yeah.
Is that just the dirty little secret we have to get around?
I'm going to go off anecdotal evidence here. Okay. Friends of mine who work in the tech jobs, the ones that cannot get hired right now are the ones that refuse to continue to learn. That's the one
interesting
common thread that I find when I talk to them. Like, have you taken a course on Coursera in this area? No. I don't think that's going to make a difference. I'm thinking about it. Like, go take an online course, for Pete's sakes. A lot of them are free. Go spend a few $100s on an online course and upgrade your skills and find out what these companies are seeking right now. Do a little homework. I know you feel like you're older, but companies need mature workers.
Right.
As you mentioned before, you can't run a company on I guess some companies can, all young workers, but you still need mature workers who can manage, who understand a lot of these soft skills. They've always had these soft skills, and that's why they've survived in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So yes, continue to upskill, be open to that. You can never be too old to learn. I like that. I'm not saying it like a bumper sticker. I'm being honest about that. It's fun to learn. And frankly, I would love to be in a startup company that's growing, because it's always changing and it's fun, and you feel like you're on a team that's, you're not making it to the Super Bowl, but you're building a team to get there.
We're not going to talk about this company here because we don't want to get in any, obviously this company's great and we love this company.
It's been a blessing.
But again, you and I were both in the print journalism world. Let's just call it print journalism. Newspapers for
newspapers.
me. Yeah, I remember what a newspaper was. And that job at that point was reporting, editing, writing. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with any of this now. No. So now most of my job is this and talking to people and doing these podcasts. Like, if you didn't have a willingness to come on the show and be on the show, like, you wouldn't gain these skills now of being able to be interviewed and talking about an opinion and things like that, right?
So,
like, how hard has that been for you?
I've been very blessed. When I was in the military, I, for a time, worked at a headquarters battalion, and I had to check in people who were coming into the division where I was stationed. And I would have to get in front of them every morning. There'd be a couple hundred, 300-400 sometimes, standing in front of me, and I have to tell them how to fill out the paperwork. And so I became very comfortable speaking in front of large audiences.
Okay.
So I already had that skill. And then I also took some courses when I was in college, knowing that this was something that I could use in my life, especially as a reporter, how to communicate with people. So I took a lot of communication courses. Mm-hmm. And so I became comfortable with it. But this has also helped me, of course, stepping out and being willing to do things and not being shy about trying new skills, and just being willing to see what gifts you have inside. A lot of people don't know the gifts they have because they've never actually stepped out and allowed them to surface.
Does a lot of this have to do also with caring more about your job than maybe a lot of people don't? Like, I've talked to a lot of people that were like, well, it's just a job. I'm just there for, I clock in at 8, I leave at 5, and that's it.
Stability's nice.
It is. It's nice to hop again, I prioritize my family more than my career at this point. I mean, when I was young and I was like, oh, career. I want to be an editor by the age of 30 and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then, I got a family, and,
that's your foundation.
That's my,
my foundation is even more than my family, as you know. But my foundation is my family and is my church. Those things are placed above my job,
right?
Always. But I also love working for a really good company, and I still feel like this company is I'm not try to pitch this. I do. I feel like I've been very blessed to work for this company. They've treated us very well over the years.
This is the part where if anyone's watching from the company, they're like, "Hey."
But honestly, and I'm being honest, I wouldn't say that. You know me. I speak my mind.
Yeah.
But in fact, in company meetings, I'll speak my mind.
Well, that makes it for a good reporter because you're not afraid to answer, ask tough questions.
I'm not. And I think that's an important skill for people to develop. Don't be quiet. Ask questions. People like it when you ask questions. They don't want you to be negative. But they want you to say, is there a better way of doing this? I have this idea. And even if it fails, they know you're thinking about it. They know you're trying.
I wonder if is skepticism a good soft skill that I could put on a resume? I'm skeptical of everything that everybody tells me to do at a company.
Better ways than saying I'm a skeptic. Probably better ways of couching that, but
all right, I'll work on that.
Yeah, you can say that.
Ask good questions. Ask tough questions.
Yep.
There you go.
I welcome a challenge.
Hey, so I want to ask you about those, the AI tools that we've seen recently. So there's been a lot of AI tools that companies use to scan resumes, but then there's been another wave of AI tools that are helping job hunters. And there was a couple of stories about this one tool that could take your resume and then it goes out and it applies for like hundreds of jobs within like hours. Obviously AI can help you write your resume or update your writing to make it sound more professional or whatever. But what about these tools that now are at almost, let's say, agentic AI, where they're going out and just submitting it for you so that you don't have to go and point and click? Is this a good thing for job hunters to look at, as like maybe utilize AI, or does it become a world where it's AI versus AI and we may not ever actually see humans in the job hiring process?
So I
don't know if you cover this at all, but
I haven't.
Yeah.
But I can tell you this: I've covered other forms of automation through AI, including, for example, insurance claim denials. I wrote recently about that, where physicians are using AI to fight back against insurance companies that are blanket denying pre-existing condition requests for treatment. And so what the physicians did was they typically would have to write a response, requesting that the insurance company does cover this for these reasons. And it took so much of their time to do that. They finally said, you know what, they're using AI. We'll use AI in order to submit the responses. And
are they finding success with that?
Somewhat. Yeah. But at the very least, what they're doing is they're pushing back on these. So the insurance companies might be saying, whoa, maybe we need to not automate this as much as we have been. And it used to be that pre-existing conditions only got denied when there was very rare cases where there wasn't a lot of evidence. But now it's like denying a lot of things right out of the gate.
Well, because there's an explosion of data too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to digress too much into that, but I want to say that yes, you should use artificial intelligence where applicable. So if you think your resume isn't up to snuff for this particular job listing, put it in there. What types of skills will I need to list on a resume for this type of job?
Yeah.
And then just don't, mindlessly send it out. Take a look at it. See what it gives you for feedback. I find that you always get some good ideas from artificial intelligence, from chatbots.
Right.
And you can take what you like and throw away others, but it'll bring things to mind that you hadn't thought of. That's where I think the use of it is right now. I'm not hip on automating all your resumes. Maybe I'm going to look into that next. Is this really working to get people jobs? Or are you just shotgunning a market and they're recognizing, the AI is recognizing fellow AI, generated resumes? I'm going to assume that a lot of that is exactly what it is. What the AI is doing in these companies is it's looking for the specific job skills that the company wants. That's what it's
automating. But okay. So I've also seen cases where companies will have a position and they want to cover all of their bases. So they list 25 different skills. And there's no way that a job candidate can have 25 skills in this day. Yeah, that should be an issue too, right?
I've talked to HR people about that.
And because a lot of times HR hiring for an IT job, they're really like, well, I don't know, like here's the list that I got from the director of the department.
Right.
We have to put in all of these things, or they just decide, well, that's not realistic.
What this is doing for HR is it's culling the list. So it's making it a smaller list of candidates. But they have told me, and I don't know if this is true, that they have told me we still keep the other resumes on file. I don't know what that means. Do they go back and look at him? Probably not. But I know what it is doing is it's culling, the thousands of resumes that they get to a smaller list that then they can look at and go through more quickly. When it used to be in the old days, they would look at a list of resumes, a pile of resumes, and they'd be no, but they still have to look at all.
Yeah, you'd get 10 seconds to maybe make that impression.
Exactly. You right at the top, you'd have to make an impression, but you still do. And that's why I'm saying you need to rethink your resumes. You need to put those soft skills in there up high. And if it has anything to do with technology, you need to put some understanding of artificial intelligence.
Okay. That just reminds me of the other question is that because we've automated so many and digitized so many ways of finding a job, like through job boards and, LinkedIn and God, I remember Monster.com and all of those other pre-board Indeed.
They were a Massachusetts company, weren't they?
Yeah. So you've now digitized the process of applying for a job versus sending a paper resume into the, and mailing it to the company and mailing it to an HR person, or walking into a company and going, hey, I'd like to fill out an application back in the day. So we've automated all of this stuff, which then created a faster way for companies to receive these resumes.
Yeah.
Also easier for me if I'm looking for a job, rather than going and driving around 5 different companies, I can now sit at a computer and apply to hundreds of jobs in about 20 minutes.
Right.
That's why companies, how now instead of having 10 resumes, they get 1,000.
Yeah.
You can't expect someone to do this thing with 1,000 resumes anymore. So that's why they've automated it through this AI stuff. But I think as we've done this, we've lost the ability to actually find anybody that's
yeah, and I think
worthwhile.
Part of the problem is the people looking for the job are not tailoring their resumes to the job they really want. I mean, they are, but they're not to the company. Yeah. I mean, not to the company that they're seeking, but I'm just telling you right now, almost to a person, every HR person that I talk to brings up soft skills.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm going to harp on that.
I know.
But I need to, because companies would rather have somebody who can learn than somebody who has this specific skill.
Right.
We'll teach you that skill.
Yeah.
Just be open to learning it and getting along with other workers and being a good communicator and being a good critical thinker. Those are the skills that can continue on in a career decade after decade versus a skill that you learned in college. I remember this guy. Oh, I hope he doesn't remember. He was a Linux. He loved Linux.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with Linux, but that's all he loved.
Yeah.
And he never wanted to learn any other language.
Right.
And so he was all about Linux, and he finally got laid off. And I remember specifically talking to his manager after the fact, and he said, I laid him off because he wasn't willing to change.
Yeah.
We weren't going to stick with just Linux.
Right.
He's probably going to know what I'm talking about, but it's the truth. It's, you've got to be malleable. You've got to be willing to change with company, because companies are changing all the time. Look at IBM, what it was and what it is. Totally different company now.
Right.
I mean, they do a lot of the same services, but they've shifted. They're not what they were, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. How old was that company? Every company has changed, and the tech companies especially know this because they were born in an era of change. So they know you've got to continue to adapt.
Yeah.
So as a worker, you do too.
Okay. One final question. Do you cover a lot of the workplace culture stuff? I know you cover the hybrid remote work stuff.
What they're offering folks.
Yeah, the types of office perks and things like that. Is that still a big deal for a lot of people, or is that now, is it so hard? It's so hard to get a job now that maybe 5-6 years ago, you could be like, oh, I want to work for a company that offers me this, this, and this. And now it's more about like, I want a company that's going to hire me.
If you're desperate,
even in a good job market, like you said, it's a good job market. You would think that the job hunters might have, or job candidates have, a little bit of the power, but it doesn't feel like that at all.
Anecdotally, a worthwhile candidate they can dictate what job they take, what job they leave behind, and companies know that. Again, these smaller, mid-sized companies, non-traditional tech companies, every company is a tech company now, they're hunting for these skilled, critical thinking, good workers.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they're still trying to make the workplace a good place to be. As we all know, there are companies that are requiring their employees in the office 5 days a week. Hybrid is the name of the game. So you're going to be working in the office probably at least 3 days a week in most companies. And so, yeah, they're trying to make a good work environment. They're putting gyms in their office buildings.
Yeah.
I mean, the one we're in right now has a big gym.
Oh, it's awesome.
They were thoughtful about that.
Yeah. Compared to what we had in Framingham. It was just like
it was like in the basement. And it was like, I think it was
and your card never
3
worked.
treadmills. And yeah, it was, but now it's like a professional gym. You go out and pay a membership for it. It's so nice. But they're thinking about that because.
But it's also depends on the generation that you're in too, I think. Yeah. You know, at some point early in my career, it was all about money and title and status. And then it became less about money and then more about benefits like healthcare. And as we were having kids and we're like, oh, you want it, the healthcare costs became more important than maybe my salary did. And
in a lot of cases.
And then, the work-life balance and the flexible benefits and the vacation time now is, I think, a little bit more important too.
I think you brought up a great point.
Though.
Yeah. I mean, salary's nice, but if you're spending all your salary on healthcare for whatever reason.
Or spending on gas money to get here.
I mean, that too. No, I think you're absolutely right. Some of the fringe benefits of these companies that they offer, not fringe benefits, but some of the benefits that they offer, like healthcare, dental, what insurance, whatever it happens to be, life insurance, whatever they're offering is also important. And I think mature employees, mature job seekers aren't just looking for the big salary, because wrapped into that salary are these benefits. If you're not getting these benefits, you're going to pay through the nose for them on your own.
Right. All right. So I want to get back to my opening question, and I don't know. I'm not sure if we've answered this at all.
I don't think we have. But
the opening question was, so if we look at 2025, sunny days ahead, or doom and gloom, and I'll even give you the third option of somewhere in the middle, because that's probably the easy answer.
I'd have to say that. Yeah. So we're seeing a shift.
You know what answer I hate from a subject that I'm interviewing is, well, it depends.
It depends. No, I'm not going to say it depends. I'm going to say that the market is better than it was in 2023.
Okay.
It's stabilized. I think that companies know what they need now, or they're getting a much better handle on what kind of workers they need now. And so I think that the hiring will continue. I think unemployment's going to continue to remain low throughout 2025. Where's my crystal ball, and what Johnny Carson used to do with the letter to his head. I don't know.
Wow, you just revealed yourself.
I know. Yeah. No, I watched it, on YouTube. I saw that show. It was called, Tonight Show or something. Yeah. But but honestly, I think that the job market is stable right now. We know things can happen to change that. It's happened in the past. In recent past.
Yeah.
But right now it does. It looks pretty stable going into 2025. There's a little cooling with the tech companies, but there's, again, hiring with the smaller, mid-size and non-traditional companies. So I think the big message that I want to leave with people is, yes, the job, they're still hiring. They are still hiring out there.
In specifically tech.
In tech.
Right.
Absolutely.
Maybe not in some other markets.
Right. But a lot of the traditional skills, not as much.
Okay.
So even if you're let's say a software engineer, knowing how to use AI to automate software engineering, that's a big skill right now.
Yeah.
And most people are using it. Most skilled software developers are using AI to get the base code that they need down for a new application.
Right.
And then they shine it up and send it off. So learning how to use these new tools in your job, no matter what that job happens to be, like a business analyst or whatever it may be, is important.
Yeah.
Continue to learn and get those soft skills in your resume.
All right. Lucas Mirian from Computer World. Thanks again for joining us here. And we'll probably, we'll have you back before next year. All right. So have some good holidays and Happy New Year and all that other stuff.
You too.
All right.
God bless.
That's all the time we have for today's show. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, add any thoughts you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.